All
Yep, it's
right.
going
Very good. All
great.
right. So when we do these sessions, I like to share with people kind of what our goal is, and it's all about self expansion. So giving
Mhm.
yourself the power, the tools, the support that you need to take care of your body and to really um, make sure that you are respecting and honoring your own intentions and your own boundaries for yourself and for others. And that includes our health as well as our relationships and our own personal needs. So today's session is going to be about our health. And I have with me Ann Russell, and she is a certified health coach through the Primal Health Coach Institute. And so I'm going to have her share with you just a little bit about this institute or her coaching certification and why she decided to become a health coach. So why don't you start there, and then we will move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy, for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with your audience and share my heart. Um, like you said, I'm a certified health coach through the Primal Health Coach Institute. And what the mission of the Primal Health Coach Institute is to train health coaches to live a healthy lifestyle through primal or ancestral health philosophy, which means we do to our body what our bodies were created to do. So that's the basis
Mm,
of what I do as a health coach is um, I I I try to help women understand that a lot of things that we do are not healthy for our bodies, and that I try to direct women into a more healthful state by changing different habits and lifestyles to that end. So
so
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say I decided to become a health coach because I've had several personal health challenges. And so my mission is really to help professional women over 55 that are recently diagnosed with pre-diabetes or have been struggling with pre-diabetes to reach and sustain lower blood sugar levels naturally so they can avoid diabetes and stay independent and active.
Yes, that is valuable information to have to know how to take care of that. And sometimes I feel that as we get older, it kind of sneaks up on us. That's not necessarily the way it needs to be, but I think if you're not really conscious about what you're doing and how you're feeding yourself and your exercise and things, it can definitely sneak up on you. And before you know it, you are in a predicament. And
Mm-hmm.
so, why don't you tell us a little bit about the topic today? It's pre-diabetes or insulin resistance. Can you tell us a kind of in people terms, what that means?
I'll try as easily as I can and just a little bit is try hard to get your wrap your head around it with the process of what happens in our body, but I'm going to try to explain that to you. So pre-diabetes and insulin resistance are essentially the same thing. Pre Insulin resistance is the term that is used, um, and but the doctors label it as pre-diabetes. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit is that I'm going to use the term glucose, but it also means sugar. So when you say you have blood sugar, elevated blood sugar, it's really glucose in your system. And glucose comes in many forms, and a lot of people don't really understand that piece of it, where all of the different ways that glucose gets into our bodies. So in the case of prediabetes, the blood sugar levels are gradually increasing because insulin resistance is due to too much sugar or glucose in the body. And every time we eat, insulin is released to aid the cells to make energy. And when there's too much glucose already in the cells, the insulin can't get into the cells to do the job to make the energy that we need. So the glucose spills over into the bloodstream, it goes to the liver, it produces fat in the liver, and it also gets converted to stored fat, which we don't want. And this cycle continues every time we eat. The more carbohydrates we eat, the more glucose is produced. And over time, excessive glucose within the bloodstream spills over to the rest of the body, resulting in organ dysfunction. And this cycle can be interrupted by removing all sugars and processed foods from our diet. So, yeah. So at the cellular level, blood sugar is controlled by insulin. Whether the insulin can get into the cells is dependent on the concentration of the glucose in the cells and in the blood. The cell's job is to produce energy, and the proper balance of glucose and sugar in the bloodstream and in the cells is controlled by insulin. When the balance is not maintained, insulin is produced. However, the insulin can't get into the cells to do the job that it's supposed to do to make energy. So then sometimes you feel a little bit sluggish. And there's two types of insulin resistance. One is due to starvation, which most of us are not dealing with. It's because there's not enough glucose in the cells, and the cells, they close the gate to prevent the insulin from coming into the cells. And then the other second type is overconsumption of glucose, where the cells are overflowing with too much glucose and the insulin can't push it out. And this type is known as hyperinsulinemia, and its root cause is the diet. The concentration of glucose in the cells determines the production of ATP, which is the currency of energy. When the ATP is turned off, glucose builds up in the cells and you feel sluggish. And then what happens over time, the pancreas keeps producing more insulin to the point that the pancreas is no longer to produce insulin, resulting in type 2 diabetes. So that's where we don't want to go. You know, once we have identified that we have pre-diabetes, we really need to nip it in the bud and turn that around as quickly as possible. I want to talk a little bit about the risk factors to diabetes that can be identified. Excess weight, being over 45, because your metabolism changes once you get past that level. Certain medications a lot of people are not aware of, one of specifically steroids and antipsychotic drugs. I noticed a lot of people, they have inflammation, so the doctor gives them steroids or an infection and then steroids, and all it's doing is propagating insulin production. A fatty liver, and the liver fat is actually what drives insulin production in the body. And sleep apnea, which I've noticed a lot of my friends now, you know, a lot of people are starting with CPAP machines, and I'm like, it's just going the wrong direction. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, abnormal fat loss from yo-yo dieting, smoking, family history, and ancestry. So how do you know if you're pre-diabetic? Sometimes a lot of people don't know because the doctors haven't run the test. There's two tests that the doctors routinely run. Usually they just run the fasting glucose or the fasting blood sugar, which is really only a measure of the amount of sugar in your body at the time your blood sugar is drawn. It's not a true measure of the total sugar that's in your body over a period of time. In order to get that measure, there's what's called the A1C, and that is a cumulative measure of over 3 months. And that the A1C for pre-diabetes is 5.7 to 6.3, and anything over 6.3 is type 2 diabetes. So we want to lower that A1C below 5.7, and the closer to 5.0, the better.
So how do they do the 3-month-long test?
It's still a blood test, but it's a different blood test.
And
So
so is it one blood test, or do you have to go every week for 3 months? How does
no,
that
it's
work?
one blood test that they take, even like when you do the routine blood work, in they can do the fasting glucose, but they should be drawing an A1C at the same time,
Mm,
because the fasting glucose is a measure of time, which can be affected by many variables. If you have a high sugar concentration from the day before, that's going to spike it up, or if you
mhm,
decided to fast the day before, it might spike it down. And so you don't even know what the real number is. So it's like a half truth, basically, you know. So the real measure that actually gives you the real picture is the A1C. So I
mm,
recommend people to make sure that the doctor orders that. A lot of doctors don't order it, and they kind of wait until you have diabetes to order it. But it's better to know now before you do have diabetes so you can do something about it.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Another, were you going to say something?
well, go ahead.
Oh,
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
okay. So another way to tell if you're pre-diabetic is your waistline, like I talked about before, your abdominal girth, your visceral fat. That's an indicator that you're insulin resistant. Use people develop skin tags, um, high blood pressure, which would be greater 130 over 80, greater than 130 over 80. And the other thing is high density lipoproteins, cholesterol should be, if it's less than 50 for women, that's an indication. So it should be higher than 50.
Mm, mhm. All right. So, yeah, definitely there's ways that we can figure out what's going on with our body and for us to be able to be proactive with these health challenges. You mentioned some things that you might be feeling or noticing even before the doctor mentions it. Um, so I can tell that you're really passionate about this. And I'm just curious, have you always been passionate about the health field? I think you mentioned when you filled out the form that you had thought you wanted to be a pediatrician. And so and that kind of shows that you've always had an interest in health. And then what did you end up doing prior to becoming a certified health coach?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I actually filed the applications to go to college and everything else. And then I ended up going to school to become an X-ray tech. And I did that for 42 years plus. But in that field, I've seen a lot of people's health declining. And so like you said, I've always been interested in health, and I've always been interested in nutrition. So my main focus is nutrition, making sure that we're putting in our bodies stuff that's going to nourish us. And if it doesn't nourish us, what's the point of eating it? You know?
Right. Mm.
So yeah, I've followed nutritional advice for years, but then, most recently when I was having trouble, that's when I really got involved in really learning how I can turn things around.
Right. So basically, your personal story with prediabetes is what got you really kind of activated what you're doing now.
Right.
Um, and so, what was it with you? Just, a short journey about your health that really made you realize that everything's coming together and I need to do something.
Yeah. Well, back in 2018, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure and prediabetes. I had high cholesterol, high systemic inflammation. I was overweight and postmenopausal. So I went on a search. So because I was in the in the healthcare arena, there was not any real answers to take care of all of these problems. They say, yeah, exercise and lose weight, but they don't give you any instruction on how to do that. And I found that really what they want to do is just put you on medication, which only masks the problem. It
Hmm.
doesn't fix the problem. So with my journey, I have actually eliminated all of my symptoms, all my medications, and all my health markers are in the exceptional range.
Mm.
And I've also helped my husband come off of high blood pressure medicine, and I've helped some other women in their health journey as well.
Wow, that is impressive and it's valuable. Um, what would you say is the most compelling aspect of what you do to help others through the work that you do with women to help lower their A1C?
So like I stated earlier, is that I'm really focused on nutrition. But there's, it's not just nutrition that affects your health. So I actually take a personalized guidance to how to lower your A1C in a 12-week program, and walk you through with daily support and weekly one-on-one conversations. The other parts of my program include sleep hygiene, stress reduction, activity, and we do some work on mindset. Our thinking has a lot to do with our behavior. So we work on that so that we can easily change our habits and lifestyle to promote health.
Mm. Well, I really appreciate you joining us to share what you do. I noticed that you have a recipe book and journal that you would like to share with our group here. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so my recipe book I've created last year. What it has is 3 to 4 blood sugar lowering recipes for each meal. It has supplemental recipes, a list of quick grab ideas. So if you're not feeling like cooking, there's some things that you can grab that you don't have to prepare too much, or prepare some ahead of time and have them ready to grab. A shopping list, a list of pantry staples, a meal planning template, and there's a space in the back to take some journal notes. So what I'd
Mm.
like to offer is anybody that books a free call with me, a 30-minute call with me, they'll receive the recipe book for free. So on the call, what I'd like to do with anybody who books a call is discuss what is the best path to create a plan to move in the right directions to turn their health around and get rid of and reverse pre-diabetes so you don't end up with diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a great offer. So what we'll do when we get finished here is we will put the link in the notes or the comments down underneath for people that want to get in touch with you. I also have some links that you shared with me about
Mhm.
your